Hello everyone and welcome back to Coloring Comics channel. I'm your host and the creator of Coloring Comics, Heraclio Kiki Aguilar. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Coloring Your Emotion. Today we'll be coloring the emotion Danger. To get the primary color that I'm going to represent for Danger, I'm going to refer to what I'm calling the emotional color wheel. Once I fix this wheel up, you can see right here, Danger is in the red section. After we figure out our primary color, we got to figure out a color palette. According to the internet, the best Danger color palette is a red, green, lime, orange, and brown color palette. Once we got our palette selected, let's move on to what we're going to color. I myself am going to be referring to pages out of my product called Coloring Comics. You can go check it out at coloring-comics.com. And then I take the page and even simplify it more by choosing just one panel. Now that we have our color palette and our project we're going to paint, let's get to work. So, what is Danger? It's an exposure of liability to injury, pain, or harmful or loss. This can also include objects individuals claim as hazardous, perilous, precocious, and risky. In other words, the emotion is very much like an awareness or an alert to your well-being. Sometimes we associate those dangers from something that happened in the past, which if we continue to be afraid of it, turns into a phobia. You also probably be asking why red represents danger. Well, simply, other than yellow, red is the most visible color on the entire color spectrum. It's probably why we paint our stop signs red and emergency curb signs that color as well. Now at this juncture, I'm going to be a little bit more loose to kind of share a story about me and Danger. I could share about when I was in the military, when I was overseas during 9/11, or even living on Skid Row, or even my overall lifestyle. But today I'm going to choose to talk about something that happened to Texas a couple of years ago called Hurricane Harvey. At the time, I was living in California. I had no plans on actually going over to Texas to help out. But all of a sudden, my friend called me, asked me if I wanted to go and help him help people out. And since I didn't really have anything to do, I said, all right, I guess I'll go. Literally the next day, we're on a plane flight to Texas. There's about 10 or 12 of us inside the group, and we came from Las Vegas, California, and other places. Initially, when I decided to go, I got excited, but as soon as I landed on the floor, it was an entirely different story. The floor was covered with water, our vehicles were sloshing around, and all of a sudden, I was the fish out of water. But in particular, I remember our first night there. I'm not exactly sure what town it was, but I remember that we met another group from Mountain Primal, I believe it was, down there. They had already spent $1 million on getting a big old diesel, a couple of boats, and a lot of stuff that we needed while on the water. As we loaded onto this diesel truck with the boats on it, I had to ride in the back because there's a little bit too many of us, but we were running through the water to a little section of town that lost all of its power and literally the buildings were halfway underwater already. Not only that, but we were told that the levees were going to be released pretty soon, and the neighborhood that we were in was directly in the flood zone. Well, being from California, I didn't know what a flood zone was, let alone a levee, but I knew letting some water out of it was going to be very crucial to this neighborhood. So our goal was to try to get as many people out of there as we could. The unfortunate thing was nobody wanted to come with us. Apparently during the last hurricane, when they chose to leave their houses, robbers decided to come right behind them and rob their belongings. So a lot of them told us that they would rather stay inside of their buildings that were submerged in water rather than leave and suffer the loss of everything. Of course, being us, we tried to beg them to come with us, but eventually that was just all for naught. We eventually just left them with the extra food. Some people we gave packs of cigarettes to. We gave them whatever they felt they needed at the time, and we had to move on. Around midnight, we decided to try to make our way out of the neighborhood, but we couldn't even see the road in front of us. We had to eventually pull off to a section to one of the houses that wasn't actually submerged to readjust our truck's tires. Once we finally got our truck pointed to the direction of town, we slowly trekked out of the water and back to somewhere physical and dry. Later on that night, the residents of the town put us up, but none of us literally could sleep. Adrenaline had kicked in as if we were back at war, and all of us were ready for action. Well, I said all of that to basically say this, that when we decided to take this job, we knew it was going to be dangerous. We knew we're going to be in a different world. We knew that regardless of what anybody else said, they needed our help, and we were willing to give it. And knowing the danger didn't stop us, it just kind of helped us drive forward to the next goal. And the danger even gave me a little bit of courage to go back a few times, not just to pull people out of the water, but to help people build their homes again. Some people tell me that this trait of jumping into danger is something that I learned while I was in the military, but honestly, I believe I probably had that trait with me the entire time I was alive. Would I do that again? More than definitely I would. Although later on in the trip, when it was about our last few days, we heard reports that we were about to get hit by another hurricane. So my friend that invited me turned to me and asked if I would be willing to stay a little bit longer to help with that damage. My body grew flustered. I felt pressure inside my body. I fought the words coming out of my mouth, but eventually I did say yes. But I didn't want to. It was scary being over there, and all the people were nice, and I wasn't really in danger, but everything was not what I was used to. And then he asked me to do it again, but except in active hurricane waters, hurricane storms, hurricane winds. I wasn't going to be ready for that. But that hurricane never hit, and we eventually got to go home. Oh, all right, enough of that. That was very deep for me. Usually at this point, I would give you a top 10 facts about danger. But looking on the internet, all I can see is dangers of drowning, dangers of e-cigarettes, and that's not exactly what I meant by danger. So I guess this week we're gonna forego the actual countdown, but tune in next week. Hopefully I'll have something done for you guys then. Well, I think that's it for me. So I'm gonna leave you with the rest of this video to enjoy. But if you do like it, please press the like button and then subscribe to my channel for future videos. I'm not sure what I'll talk about next week, but I'm sure it's gonna be deep as it was this week. I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves, and I hope you have a very great rest of your day. See you guys around.